Data guides decisions, but it's not neutral. In today's digital era, data is often seen as an objective foundation for decision-making. Governments worldwide increasingly rely on vast data sets to design policies, allocate resources, and evaluate outcomes. This approach promises a more rational, efficient, and responsive form of governance. We see this in social welfare, where data on income, household size, and employment status is used to determine eligibility for benefits, aiming to target support precisely to those who need it most. In urban planning, data on population density, traffic flow, and resource consumption informs where to build new schools, roads, and public transit, shaping the physical landscape of our cities for decades to come. And in public health, epidemiological data is crucial for tracking disease outbreaks, distributing vaccines, and launching preventative care campaigns to protect vulnerable communities. In each of these domains, data has become the invisible backbone of modern governance. However, the core assumption that data is inherently neutral is deeply misleading. Data does not simply reflect reality, it actively shapes it. The choices made in how data is collected, what variables are included or excluded, how it's processed, and ultimately how it's interpreted, are all human decisions laden with values and assumptions. These choices can inadvertently reinforce existing inequalities, creating feedback loops that further disadvantage marginalized groups. Alternatively, if wielded with care and critical awareness, these same tools can be used to identify and help reduce those very inequalities. Understanding this dual, powerful role is absolutely essential to unpacking how public policy truly operates in our data-driven world. The application of data in public policy is expanding rapidly. Beyond identifying problems and targeting beneficiaries, governments now use predictive analytics to forecast future needs and risks. For instance, in taxation, algorithms can flag returns with a high probability of error or fraud, helping agencies focus their audits more effectively. In law enforcement, predictive models are used to forecast crime hotspots, guiding the deployment of police resources. While the goal is often to enhance efficiency and fairness, each application carries its own set of complex ethical considerations that demand our close attention. At first glance, this seems efficient and rational. Data enables governments to move beyond intuition and toward evidence-based policymaking. But this efficiency comes with risks. Data is never complete, and it is rarely unbiased. Every dataset is shaped by decisions: what to measure, how to measure it, and whose data is included or excluded. These decisions are not purely technical, they are political. The hidden bias in data systems. While data promises objectivity, it is a human product, and its neutrality is often an illusion. Bias can creep into data systems at multiple stages, each layer compounding the distortions of the last. Understanding these stages is the first step toward mitigating their harmful effects on policy and people. First, there is collection bias. This occurs at the very source. Not all populations are equally represented in datasets. Marginalized communities are often undercounted or misrepresented, whether due to lack of access, informal status, or systemic exclusion. For example, a national census might fail to accurately count nomadic populations or residents of informal settlements, simply because the collection methods weren't designed with them in mind. When these groups are invisible in the initial data, they become invisible in the policies that follow, missing out on essential services and representation. Second, there is processing bias. Here, the raw data is cleaned, structured, and fed into algorithms. These analytical models are built on assumptions that may not hold true across different social contexts. Consider a credit scoring system designed around traditional employment. It might automatically penalize a freelance artist or a gig economy driver who has a healthy but irregular income. The algorithm isn't intentionally malicious. It's simply applying a narrow, biased logic that fails to capture the reality of non-traditional livelihoods, thereby restricting economic opportunities. Third, there is interpretation bias. Even with perfect data and flawless algorithms, bias can enter at the final stage, human judgment. Policymakers and analysts interpret data through their own institutional and political lenses. The same dataset on urban mobility can lead to vastly different conclusions. One official, focused on reducing traffic congestion, might see a clear case for building a new highway. Another, prioritizing public health and accessibility, could use the exact same data to argue for expanding public transit and bike lanes. Priorities, incentives, and power structures dictate which story the data tells. When these biases accumulate, the result is a system that doesn't just reflect existing social inequalities, it actively amplifies them. Policies built on this flawed foundation can inadvertently reproduce and deepen the very inequities they were meant to address, creating a vicious cycle of data-driven exclusion. When data reinforces inequality. While data-driven policies promise efficiency and precision, they can unintentionally deepen social divides if not designed with care. This happens because data is not inherently neutral. It reflects the world it's collected from, biases and all. When automated systems are built on this data without critical oversight, they can create feedback loops that reinforce existing inequalities. There are many examples where this has occurred. Let's consider a mini case study in social protection. Imagine a government using a national database to distribute emergency aid. If this database is outdated, it might not include migrant workers or those in informal housing. The system automatically flags them as ineligible, creating exclusion errors. The outcome is that the most vulnerable are left without support. At the same time, inclusion errors can allocate resources to those who are less in need, straining the budget and undermining public trust. A potential fix involves implementing dynamic, community-driven data verification, where local leaders or citizens can help update records, ensuring the system accurately reflects real-time needs. In the realm of digital governance, algorithmic decision-making can amplify bias at scale. For our second case study, let's look at automated hiring. An algorithm trained on a company's past hiring decisions, which historically favored men for technical roles, might learn to penalize resumes containing words associated with women. The outcome is systemic discrimination, locking qualified candidates out of opportunities. Similarly, credit scoring algorithms trained on biased historical lending data may unfairly deny loans to applicants from minority neighborhoods. The solution here requires proactive intervention, regularly auditing algorithms for biased outcomes and retraining them on data sets that are intentionally balanced to counteract historical inequalities. This pattern extends even to urban development. Data-driven planning can inadvertently prioritize infrastructure projects in areas with better data availability, which are often wealthier neighborhoods, while neglecting informal settlements or underserved regions where data is sparse. This digital divide translates directly into a development divide on the ground. These examples illustrate a crucial point. Data does not merely inform policy, it actively shapes who benefits, who is included, and who is left behind. Without conscious efforts to ensure fairness, data systems risk becoming powerful engines of inequality. The data justice nexus. To address these challenges, we need to move beyond viewing data as a purely technical tool. Instead, we must understand it as part of a broader relationship between data, power, and justice, what can be described as the data justice nexus. This perspective highlights three key dimensions: representation, who is visible in the data, whose experiences are captured, and whose are ignored; distribution, how are resources and opportunities allocated based on data-driven decisions; Governance. Who controls data systems, and who is accountable for their outcomes? By examining these dimensions, we can better understand how data influences inequality and identify pathways for more just policymaking. Recognizing the limitations of data is the first step toward improving it. Governments and institutions need to adopt more inclusive and reflexive approaches to data governance. This includes improving data collection to better represent marginalized groups, auditing algorithms and models for bias and unintended consequences, increasing transparency in how data is used in decision-making, engaging communities in the design and evaluation of data systems. Ultimately, the goal is not to abandon data-driven policymaking, but to make it more equitable. Data has the power to transform public policy, but it also has the power to entrench inequality. Treating data as neutral obscures the ways in which it reflects and reproduces existing power structures. To build more just societies, we must critically examine how data is produced, governed, and applied. Understanding how data shapes public policy is not just a technical issue, it is a question of justice. And in an increasingly data-driven world, that question is more urgent than ever.